Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Bill Pucko here with you on the Rochester Press Box, along with Tariq Spence, WDKX. Hey, Tariq, looking good?
Yes, looking forward to the playoffs. They're looking good, too.
Yep, and Pat Duffy's wearing a Tribute Sabres jersey. Tell us a little bit about that, Pat.
Yeah, so Dale Hawerchuk, Winnipeg Jets legend, Sabres legend, passes away at 57 earlier this week from stomach cancer. So I have my NHL 94 video game, Dale Hawerchuk jersey on, pixelated everything, unstoppable in NHL 94, and like all around, from youth level all the way up to NHL level, just a guy that contributed to hockey in every single aspect of the game.
Yep, and a Hall of Famer. Hey, Tariq, the Rochester Americans underwent a do-over, I guess, that they hired themselves a new coach, and with all the things that are being, said in relation to it, Seth Apert's the new guy. What do you think this means for the local hockey team?
I think it means exactly one word, and Duffy will back me up on this. Now, normally I don't listen to and watch press conferences, but this word kept coming up, and it's called development. And I kept hearing it over and over and over again. And what this means for the Buffalo Sabres and for the Amerks is this is going to take some time. They're going to sort of evaluate, bring in a lot of young, new talent. I'm not sure if it's going to be a destination spot for veterans. I don't want to speak for the Amerks or the Sabres, but he was talking more about development, first job, learning the players, recruiting from the area. I don't mind the first hire. I just know that going forward, this is going to take some time. The last couple of years, Chris Taylor did a great job winning for the Amerks. But when I kept hearing the word development so much, Duffy, you could back me up. This means they're trying to build a culture young and grow it from there.
Yeah, so there are three things here that stick out with the hiring of, I don't know if it's Apert or Aper. I've heard it both ways. But okay, first of all, to Tariq's point, in the last 10 years, the Sabres and Amerks have had this swing, right? Like you went from coaches that they were looking to win games to development coaches, right? Like you went from your Randy Cunnyworths to your guys that were coming out of the development programs, now to Chris Taylor, who's a legitimate coach, who's going to be an NHL coach one day, back here to Apert, right? Like, I mean, you look at Apert's record as a coach. He was a coach for, I believe, 11 seasons at RPI, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. They had 4 seasons over 500. Then he ends up in the National Development Program with the kids, and he's pretty successful there, both as an assistant and as a head coach. Second interesting thing, he went to Ferris State and played college hockey. He was a goalie there. The most valuable prospect you are going to have in Rochester this season and maybe next season, Pekka Luukkonen. He is your guy. MVP of the OHL 2 seasons ago. Got time in the E and time in the A last season. He's waiting to make his Sabres debut. That's going to happen. The third most interesting thing is I've been talking to a couple of guys this week who are familiar with him. And it seems that this head coach is a big fan of the hard-nosed, gritty players. Not so much the fighters, but the guys that are going to go in the corner and take a shot to make a play. Guys that are going to stand in front of the net, don't mind taking a stick in the face. That is something that the Sabres have been lacking for a very long time. Like, you look at the Sabres' top 6, with the exception of Jack Eichel, and that's not the guy who should be doing it. I can't think of another player that I have witnessed in the last 2 seasons go into a corner and win a battle and sacrifice his body to do it. They want development, like Tariq said. It looks like they want a little more grit, and they need their goalie to succeed. He checks all these boxes on paper, but, I mean, he's also a guy that's kind of anonymous. Unless you're a deep hockey person, you've never heard of the guy before. See what happens over the next couple of seasons?
Yeah, Tariq, I got a couple of things. Going back to your word, development for especially the Rochester Americans is like a buzzword for like, we're not going to win. You never hear him when they're bringing up the word development constantly. It says, "Hey, don't expect too much." Second thing is here, I think and we all like Chris Taylor, who's one of our guys. I think there's a real trust issue. The Pagulas have been cutting payroll. They didn't give the Amerks a general manager. They're hiring this guy. They're saying we're not going to do real well. I don't think Amerks fans are going to warm up to this guy unless he accomplishes something quickly.
He said that it's a healthy pressure. He mentioned healthy pressure, recruiting in Western New York, all the things that he accomplished in Denver to the RPI and everything that he's done. I just know full well, because you're going from a winning coach who's won the last 3 seasons to a sort of a coach that Duffy even said before, we really don't know that much about. You go in hoping for the best, but understanding this might be a long project for the Sabres to rebuild their franchise, which I have to say has to be done.
It's not just the Sabres, the overwhelming majority of the AHL are going to rely on young players that they're developing to get better. Every once in a while, you have their teams like the Toronto Marlies that have deep pockets, that have no problem paying guys that have been around for a while. But I think this idea of keeping veterans around to teach young players to win and be professionals is going away. And to be honest with you, it might not be a bad idea based on what we've seen in Rochester the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's certainly an inexact science. We are the Rochester Press Box, and we're talking Buffalo Bills next.
Original Bay Goodman Pizza, located on the corner of North Winton at Browncroft. There are 3 ways to get the original Bay and Goodman delivery. Go to baygoodman.com.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box. Pat, the Buffalo Bills spent a lot of money over the last week. We re-up with the coach. Certainly that everyone kind of likes that. And Dawkins signed an extension for a few years. What's this tell you about what the team is up to?
Well, it tells me that they're being really smart with the guys that opted out, EJ Gaines and Star Latulele. They're taking that money and they're spreading it around cap-wise. I mean, that Dawkins move is a quality move. He's a guy that's been trending up the last couple of seasons. You know how expensive tackles in the NFL can get when they reach their peak. They got him trending up. Hopefully he becomes what they think he can become. And now you've got a heck of a deal on your offensive line. Plus, your entire, I believe, right side is under contract for the next 3 seasons. Like, you are ready to go. If your quarterback can take that step forward, your defense is rock solid. Your wide receiver core is looking really good. You got 2 young backs and your offensive line is cohesive. Oh my God. Bill, buy your tickets. Super Bowl right now. It's game time. Let's do this thing.
Yeah, we're watching it on TV with the rest of us.
I don't know what ticket he's going to buy, but I mean, it better be a pretty good one if it gets him in the stadium. Listen, I think this is a great deal. I think the Bills have done a lot of what I think the Kansas City Chiefs did. They're basically locking guys up. They're going to say, hey, we're going to go for it all for the next 3 years or so. You have Dawkins until 2024. You have McDermott until 2025. The only question mark is Allen. And not that I'm down on Allen. It's just it's the only question mark left is your quarterback. I think to Duffy's point, you have what you need on offense. You have enough of the pieces on defense, plus Frazier's mind defensively. This is the chance to do it. If it isn't this year, it's next year. And if it isn't next year, it's the year after that. Then you start questioning whether or not you have the right players that you need. But the number one question is Allen. Allen is the number one question, and I can't answer that until they start playing games.
You know, we've done, Pat, the ability of Josh Allen and, you know, what we think of all the various things he does in terms of his life. I mean, that rookie contract comes up, make or break year coming up. He can cash in big if he plays well.
Yeah. Well, to Tariq's point, you know, you got to figure out if he's your guy. Look, it doesn't matter if he's your guy or not. He has to be your guy right now because you have 3 years left before he signs for major money in the NFL. And if he's not your guy, well, then you have to go spend major money on a veteran quarterback that you think can play really well. So, look, everything else in place is awesome. If Josh Allen, for whatever reason, regresses or something happens, knock on wood, I'm not going to say the word because I don't want to jinx anything, you've got a serious problem with your receivers and your running backs, right? I mean, you can grind out games with your defense. You did it last year, but it wasn't an easy thing to do. You need a quarterback to make all of this go. So either we're good there and it's going to be amazing success, or we've got an issue there and there's frustration that, I mean, let's face it, we've been used to for the last 25 years.
I like what Cole Beasley said. He had a great comment for Allen early on in practices. He was talking about how some of the deep balls were sort of awry last season. They look better in camp this year. So, I mean, obviously it's camp. It's not, you know, the pressure of defensive linemen flying at you. But if Cole Beasley's coming out saying, listen, he throws a better ball this year and clearly worked on it during the offseason, that's got to make you feel a little bit better, right, Duffy?
You know, listen, I've sat in training camp for years and years and years, and I've watched all kinds of wide receivers and coaches and running backs talk about how E.J. Manuel was ready to turn the corner and Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to be able to play in this league for another 10 years at a high level, right? And J.P. Lossman is going to be the future of this franchise. Look, it's training camp, man. I'll watch the clips. I'll get excited, but I'm not putting any stock in what anybody says, especially with the training camp situation right now.
The one silver lining to this, and I think it connects Dawkins to McDermott, is that this regime has got a good track record in terms of the players they've picked. Dawkins has come up aces with a second-round guy, White. You can go right down the list. The people that the Bills' new regime has drafted and invested in have come through. So let's hope this is the year Josh Allen joins that crowd. We are the Rochester Press Box, like it or not, is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Here's the Press Box trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390. Thanks for joining us once again. It's the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko, Tariq Spence, Pat Duffy. Tariq, like it or not, the situation at North Carolina. Explain, please.
Oh, for folks that may not understand, North Carolina has decided at the school that the students will not be on campus. They will go online. But the athletes, they have to show up. They got to play, which is kind of weird because it basically happened at the start of the school year. A number of kids were infected with the pandemic, and so now they shut it down going forward. But what does this do now for players? I just don't understand how they're not employees now. How is it they're set to another set of standards where all of these other students who are not running up and down the field and taking classes and bumping into each other and preparing every Saturday to play football, you can stay at home and go online. But you, as a student athlete, not only have to stay online and do your work, but you're going to be bumping into people, knocking people out, going to coast, and traveling, depending on where you go. So North Carolina just made the statement for athletes in college that you're not a student, you're an employee.
It's funny, man. Like the kid that gets the scholarship to play trombone, that kid isn't necessary, right? He's getting money to go. That kid can actually go play in a band and get paid, and that's totally fine, right? Yep. But the kid who plays football, you're not anything better than a student athlete. Also, please show up when nobody else has to.
I mean, at least they're not trying to disguise it anymore, right? I mean,
well, then pay the kids, for God's sakes. Sorry.
Yeah, but the fact is that that the football players are safer under these conditions. Counterintuitive. You think like if they're not having classes, they shouldn't have football. But the fact is the football players are safer without anybody else on campus. And this thing, Tariq, actually has a real chance of succeeding.
Yeah, but here's the other end of this too. They're the same age, so they think the same way. So if they get hungry, they're going to want to go out. If they want to go on a date, they're going to want to go on a date. If they're going to want to go to a party, they're going to want to go to a party. Like, I think there's this level of they're more mature because they're athletes and they're students. No, they're the same age. They're kids. They want to go out and get out of the stress system. What do they do to relieve stress? Study online, go to practice, and stay in their bubble.
Pat, like it or not, Fernando Tatis as we debate the unwritten rules of baseball again.
All right, you and your baseball nerds, Bill, and your unwritten rules. You know what helps with the unwritten rules? Write them down, for God's sakes. Like, baseball is such a soft snowflake kind of sport. We're playing really poorly, so, like, you can't do this thing to make it look even worse. Like, why am I not swinging away with the bases loaded at a 3-0 pitch if you serve up the meatball that Tatis was served that day? You don't like it? Play better. Your team doesn't like it. The manager doesn't like it. Why don't you use your pitchers in better situations? Like, why? As a professional athlete, would you not be doing everything you could to be as successful as possible at every chance you get? Like, Bill, you can't tell me you were upset with him swinging 3-0 up. What were they up? 10-0 at that point?
Well, you know what? Here's how I say, and I think I have to be just a devil's advocate on here, because I know if I ask you guys, you're not going to like the unwritten rules. It's just a given. But the unwritten rules give baseball this kind of gray area culture that seems to serve it well, which makes, I think, I hesitate to say, a more interesting sport.
Oh, I mean, look, you want to talk interesting. It's interesting that they're upset that he hit a grand slam home run. Look, the other manager, if he wants to have a hissy fit, I understand that, fine. You got embarrassed on television and everyone's talking about it. But for the guy's own manager to be like, how dare you hit a grand slam? Get out of my face with this crap. Come on.
Here's the problem with baseball. The rules are unwritten, but Fernando Tatis Jr. is watchable. I actually want to see when he gets up to the plate what he's going to do. So if he's not going to follow the rules and break the rules, that makes him more watchable as a player.
And they come up so often, it gives us a lot of fodder to talk about here. This is the Rochester Press Box, and Unfinished Business is next.
And now to Eichel. He floated one.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us on the Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko, Tariq Spence, Pat Duffy. Pat Duffy, Unfinished Business. Start us off.
As we come to the end of this week here, we're also coming to the end of the first official actual round of NHL playoffs, and I realized something. I'm starting to get nervous because for the last 3 weeks, there's been hockey on literally every moment of the day, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon all the way till midnight. I can turn my TV on, sometimes 2 games at a time, and I'm watching high-quality, amazing hockey. I thought the NHL, along with a bunch of other people, were really stupid for doing this whole wild card play-in round to figure out who was going to end up with the 8 seeds. But I was wrong. And I think it should be expanded to a regular thing. Give me a week of wild card teams from the, 7th seed all the way down to the 12th seed every single season, because this has been the best hockey I've watched in my entire life. I'm on the edge of my seat every single night. It seems like every game is coming down to a 1-goal game with 1:30 left, a goalie pulled, and a puck ends up in the back of the net to go to overtime. For God's sakes, there was a 5 overtime game that happened a week and a half ago. If the NHL is smart, which they're not, but if for some reason they get smart immediately, they will see what they've done here, they will take it, and they will continue it moving forward past the pandemic, because the only thing better than hockey is more hockey.
Congratulations goes out to Jason Wright and the Washington Football Club. Jason Wright becomes the first Black president of an NFL team, but it's for the Washington team. Yeah, the one that changed its name, the one that's actually dealing with a lot of controversy, not only from changing its name, but sexual allegations against former employees that were there. One that involves a domestic violence situation with one of its players, and an owner that seems to be dodging the news and reality of what's going on with its franchise. Oh, and the fact that they're losing games. For Wright and for new head coach Ron Rivera, this isn't just a chance to turn the team around. You have to actually turn the culture of an entire franchise around, which means you're going to need to take a little bit longer than the 2 to 3 years that they normally give coaches and general managers and presidents to turn an organization around. The Washington Redskins are a dumpster fire, and I don't wish them well because I'd like to see the Giants win. But I do root for Wright and for Rivera. Why? Because they have to actually change the entire culture and image of an organization. You can't do that in 2 to 3 years, so they'll need a little bit longer. In a league that's normally called not for long, the Washington Football Club is going to need a little bit longer to get things right.
Let's do some more Washington football stuff. Why not? A few weeks ago, the Washington Football Club's renaming its team was a major hot-button issue. And at the time, I remember saying that it was more complex than it appeared, because it was do the right thing, but the right thing according to who. And there are so many opinions now out there about everything, probably more than any other time in our life. And then last week, I listened to Nota Begay being interviewed on the Dan Patrick Show. And Nota Begay is an interesting character. He was a teammate of Tiger Woods at Stanford. He participated in the PGA and won 4 times. Most importantly, he's a full-blooded Native American. He's got Navajo and Pueblo Indian in him. So Dan Patrick asked him, well, what do you think about the name change with the Washington Football Club, which at that time had already been instituted? And Nota Begay says, I think it's great. It advocates for a better perception of who we are. Now think about that. Now, the whole Washington name thing is a back burner issue. We won't really be discussing that much anymore. But there's other issues that are going to come up masqueraded as civil rights issues. They're going to cause us to think about things that we believe again. It advocates for a better perception of who we are. Just remember that. If it's on that track, you're doing the right thing. And maybe it's not so complicated after all. That is our program. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Tariq?
I love Duffy's shirt. That's probably the best jersey you've ever worn. It's just a pixelated thing. I want to just commend you on your jersey today.
Thank you. I think people think they're having like brain issues when I wear it out because I get like these double takes like, oh my God, am I going to collapse? Am I slowly going down to one knee? This is bad.
I was a little confused. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.